Hello, my name is Fraser Simons. This is my channel Springboard Thought. Today I'm doing the last 10 books tag from Bookworm Adventure Girl, who tagged me, originally created by Marc Nash. Bookworm Adventure Girl is also Canadian. You should check her out. She's really great at spotlighting can-lit stuff, which I've just been starting to do with the Giller Prize, and I should do more often, especially since Canadian fiction is way more siloed than most people think. Oftentimes when you get published in Canada, that's where it stays. And the marketing power of such smaller, I guess, publishing houses is not that great. It's usually only the big houses that have offices in Canada that publish locally sometimes that have any marketing whatsoever. So it just depends. But yeah, check out our channel. So as the tag suggests, there's 10 prompts. Let's get into it. The last book you did not finish. This was Never Saw Me Coming by Vera Kurian. This had an interesting setup, but it didn't follow through whatsoever for me. It's commercial fiction. It's about a group of people who go to a campus to ostensibly participate in school, and our protagonist is a woman who is planning on murdering somebody, at least up to the point that I got anyway. She has a regular check-in with a therapist, psychologist, in which they're, I guess, trying to normalize people who don't have the empathy response or slightly neurodivergent in various ways. I don't think they're all the same. And to show society that they're like, you know, normal, fine, can operate in society, stuff like that. And the person, I believe, that she wanted to kill ends up being killed already, and she is sort of trying to figure out who all had done it. Somebody died anyway, and it was so uninteresting that I just don't care who actually died. And it just, the premise wasn't executed properly for me. The last book I have reread for question 2 is Fight Night by Miriam Toews. This I initially got as an ARC, and when consuming it, because it was a child narrator, I thought it was endearing and fine for the most part. I don't even generally like child narrators because the sentence structure tends to be something that is reflected of the child's age and stuff. This actually sang pretty well on audiobook. It bumped it up from a 3-star that was fine to something that exceeded my expectations. The narration was quite great, and the story just felt like it flowed a lot better. So if you want to read that book, I highly recommend it in audiobook. The last book that I bought just came today, the conclusion of the Expanse series, Leviathan Falls. The beginning is Leviathan Wakes. It's about 500 pages. Me being frugal, the only reason I got it, and it's kind of annoying that I got the hardback instead of the paperbacks behind me, so it won't line up completely on the shelves, but Indigo had this weird sale on where they had a pretty big percentage off new orders, pre-orders, so I got this in the Rooney book for like 20 bucks each only, because they had a sale, and then I also had a coupon that they send me for my birthday for another 15 or 20% off. And then I also had points that applied to it, so it ended up costing me like very little for both of them. If you've not read the Expanse books, I recommend it. It is contemporary, just above commercial fiction. It is very good at developing psychological profiles for each of the people so that everything that follows, be the victim or perpetrator or villain or hero or whatever archetype you want to apply to the characters, they're really well developed. What follows makes sense. Their motivations make sense. It's all rooted in psychology, so I wouldn't be surprised if one of the two duo of writers is a psychologist or something like that. And it is science fiction in a near-ish future in which a technology was invented, the Epstein drive, I believe it's called, where it is a cleaner burning engine that is quite quick It doesn't have light travel, but it's very fast, and it allows for the Expanse to be colonized, basically. Mars is colonized in a faction, the Belt is colonized, and they're the labor force. They mine asteroids. They have grown up as a sort of marginalized entity and culture of their own that is precisely and only of space culture, in a way that Earth and Mars are not, of course. And they have bodies that have been altered because they grew up in zero-G environments or low-G environments. And it's essentially about these factions interacting in different ways. It begins as a sort of Cold War-ish setup and a found family / tropes. It has good representation. I think both of them write women very well, and I think that it only gets better. So if you like the first book, which I would say is pretty rough, keep going, and it reaches new heights. One of my favorite books is the last book before this one, so they kept going strong, and they know when to end it. This is the last book. This next question's pretty funny. The last book you said you read, but didn't. I actually have one of these. I thought that I would be, coy and say that I don't think I've ever done that, but I did think of one. Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, Susanna Clarke. I watched the TV show, and completely years later now, thought that I had read the book. Like, when people reference stuff, I typically know. But then it was only a few years ago, so when I went on Goodreads, because I picked this up, I didn't have a copy of it, off of Book Outlet, I think. I went to add it, and it wasn't there. And my want to read list is solely books that I have possession of in some way or another. Ebooks, audiobooks on the way, or in my TBR, so I don't add stuff that I already own, for instance, if I'm looking at Book Outlet books and stuff like that. And it wasn't there, and so I was confronted with the fact that I have not read it. And I could have included this in the Mooks and Gripes book, bucket list, basically. And it's a whopper, 850 pages, so maybe next year. The last book I wrote in the margins of, definitely, House of Leaves, which I'm currently reading and spiraling. I would say probably every page has notes or is tabbed to specific locations in the book, or page references, thoughts, feelings, what have you. So, yeah, that is, I don't typically write in books, but because this is presented as an academic text, I think it is implicitly allowing you to operate in the sense that it is going to be critiqued by somebody, therefore you, even though it's fictional. And then explicitly, I think there's a passage where it says you should feel free to interact with the book in that way anyway. So, the last book that I had signed, Sunken by Mike Martens. This is a book that was kickstarted by someone that I knew in a community group of RPG designers. The system that it's built on, Trophy, is a system that I play tested and that I routinely play. It's in my channels, you can watch me playing it. This is based on that and changed. It's called Hack, a Rules Drift, and it's a nautical horror game that is really well designed. Like, look at that layout, for instance. So I definitely still need to read this and check it out, but the layout is extremely compelling, and I didn't ask for it, but he graciously signed it, and I noticed that when I got it in the mail, which means a lot. So I plan on doing videos where I'm looking at tabletop role-playing game design, and this will definitely be one of them. The last book you lost. When I went downstairs and unpacked a box of books from my childhood and other stuff, I noticed that For some reason, I don't have the first 2 Game of Thrones books. I only have the 3rd. And I probably lent those out and then didn't really care. My brother got me the first 3 paperbacks, and I made it through the second one halfway. It just wasn't really my thing. The last book that you had to replace. It hasn't come yet, and I just finished this last night. Fingersmith by Sarah Waters. There is a rip that I noticed, and so ordered a replacement from Amazon, even though it's not from Amazon, but Amazon doesn't know, won't kill them. The last book that I ever had an argument over, probably The Silent Patient. There's a lot of people that are rabid fans of that book. I thought that it failed at every level. I don't think that it delivered the mystery component very well. I thought it telegraphed everything quite early on. It is not a pleasant read because it has mental health professionals being portrayed as if it's like the 70s still, as well as institutions. Mental illness isn't handled great. The institution makes no sense. It's a very Hollywoodization of what mental health is, which makes sense because the author used to be a scriptwriter, so it makes sense that his sort of default perception is very cinematic and pulls from tropes in that world. And the last book you couldn't get a hold of, The Books of Jacob by Olga Tokarczuk. This book is coming out in Canada, at least, maybe North America. Probably not North America, because I know Courtney is reading it right now, but maybe she ordered it from overseas. It comes out February 1st over here, so I can't even get it at the library yet. And it's quite long. It's like 1,000 pages or something, so, you know, take your time. So let's tag some people. I'm not sure if these people have done the tag or not. I don't know if this is a recent tag or not. Another bibliophile reads, Past Story Time, Lady Jane Books, Christinelle SFF Reader. Let's go with those.